Well,
Here we are back on a Tuesday night.
and welcome back, David. He was gone for the past 2 weeks.
He was gone.
No.
Last week we had to do something else.
We had a mission conference last week, and man, was it 4 days, wore me out. Didn't miss a penny of it.
And we got Don over here. Say, hey, Don.
Hey everybody. Don's a little tired.
The crew.
I hate
all
saying
good.
it this way since I'm teaching a class on Exodus, but I work for a slave today.
So it's
A
your
straw?
I'm telling you what, they had the taskmaster on me.
Making bricks without no straw.
as usual. We got our
Lavender tea.
lavender tea and lavender latte, and
Oh yeah.
coffee has moved.
Has he opened up again?
I don't know where he's at. I thought I did.
By
Okay,
Little Caesar's Pizza.
Yeah.
Right next door. Used to be some kind of donut shop there, Delight Donuts
Yeah.
or something like that.
Seems like everything that goes in that building seems to move somewhere else eventually. So he might not stay there long either.
Yeah. So we're going to be in Daniel 10. Did we?
10?
That's the last time.
Hold
Yeah,
on.
we're supposed to be in 11.
3, 9, 4, enter. Daniel 11. There we go.
There we
Chapter
go.
11.
So, okay, this is going to be a very interesting night tonight.
Awesome.
So,
I love how this book opens.
in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth.
In the first year of Darius the Mede, I stood up to strengthen and protect him. Now I will tell you the truth. How many times have you heard anybody say, now I'm going to tell you the truth? Well, this is a young man, actually an old man by this time, who told the truth. He just put it out there. This is what I saw. This is what I know. This is who God is. Daniel was a man who spoke the truth, even if it was against him. That, to me, is what is sorely lacking in our world today.
What verse is that?
That's verse 2.
Oh.
Also, in the first year of Darius, even I love how
Even I stood to confirm and strengthen him. Now I'm going to tell you the truth. That's the second one.
yay!
Come on in.
Run a little late.
My door walk on
It's
in.
okay.
Here goes the restroom.
So,
This is almost good as cold coffee.
almost. So,
Yeah, not quite.
now I'm going to tell you the truth. First of all, he's talking about Darius the Mede, that's the ruler. And he stood to strengthen him. What does that really mean?
Trying to hip him up.
To help him, he tried to guide him, he tried to give him good advice, to lead him
Which was his
along a
job.
path of righteousness, for righteousness. And
It
he
was
said,
one of
I'm
the
going
wise
to tell you the truth. And that, boy, I tell you what, it just tickles me to death when somebody that really tells the truth says to me, I'm going to tell you the truth. Even if it hurts your feelings, I'm going to tell you the truth.
Well, there's plenty of books out there that tell you the truth about these presidents
Yeah.
that they work for.
Daniel's going to tell you the truth. And it is so important. And now I will show thee the truth. Who tells the truth these days? All of it. Flat out, straight up, right in your face. This is the truth. This is the fact. No opinion, no slant, no desire for you to believe one or lean one way or the other. This is simply the truth. And I long for that so much in this world anymore. Just tell me the truth. How many of y'all are parents? Everybody but David, so far. Greg, have you ever desired with all of your heart for your children to tell you the truth? Straight up. Did it always happen?
Not always.
No.
All I know is my mother went to her grave and didn't know everything I did.
Oh, yeah.
I think we all agree with that.
There are just a very very few people in this world that I've ever known or read about that straight up simply Daniel.
I think you're right.
Very few. Very
Yeah.
no, I don't care if it hurts me.
See,
I'll tell you on me.
Daniel was in a high political position.
Yes. And I'll tell you all about me. I'll just throw myself down on the cutting board here. I'll tell you the truth. How many people do that when it's going to harm them?
No.
Joseph did it.
But the Joseph did.
Joseph
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
Abraham didn't do it.
No, Abraham
No.
didn't. Abraham,
Neither did
I'm
Isaac,
sorry.
Jacob.
Abraham was a good man, a man after God's own heart, and God wanted to bless him, but Abraham was a liar.
By his wife, to the king of Egypt.
Yeah.
That's
You
my
know-
sister.
It's
She was 90 years old and
And this is what I
beautiful.
as we go through Daniel 11, that's what I want folks out there
Imagine what she
listening to
looked
this
like when she was
to
20.
understand. Daniel is telling the truth, so be quiet, listen to what Daniel's saying, because he's actually telling the truth. How important
What's
is
he
that?
telling
for
the
us?
truth about?
I don't know, go ahead and read it, Doctor. I can't see it for David speaking.
Behold, see, and now will I show thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia, and the fourth shall be far richer, and by his strength through his riches he shall stir up all against the realm of Grecia.
Greece.
Greece.
It'll be Greece.
So, wow. He stands up and looks at this ruler, this king, to strengthen him and says, guess what? You ain't it. Who does that? Who stands up before a king or a president or their boss and says, there's some other fellas that are coming, but you ain't it?
Yeah.
Well, he's
Woo!
He's saying that, well, okay, this is the time of Darius. He's the king, the ruler. And then there's going to be 3 more Persian kings to come after him. And the last one is Xerxes.
And fourth one.
And he's the one that goes against Greece.
Which was a mistake.
Yeah.
Some people need to listen to who they're going up against. There's in this world today, there's a Mr. Putin in Russia who needs somebody to tell him the truth, and he needs to back down because he's getting whooped.
That's true.
It's the truth. His equipment is inferior. His soldiers' training and motivation is inferior. They have no leadership. They don't have a clue what they're doing. And he needs to back off before somebody makes his little butt real bad.
But he has been at it how many months now?
3.
How many years has he been doing this? This war has been going on for 14 years in Ukraine, over on the eastern zone and eastern part of the country. And not trying to get away from this, but Daniel's trying to tell him what somebody needs to tell Putin.
Sounds
I'm
to
gonna
me
tell you
like
the
people
truth.
Don't care.
There's 3 kings that are going to come up. They'll arise in Persia. They'll do well. And the fourth will be far richer than those. By the power that fourth one gains through his riches, he will stir up everyone against the kingdom of Greece. You would think that somebody would have been around that heard these words when the fourth king Xerxes stood up and said, hold up. You're going up the wrong hornet's nest. Daniel foretold. Who's Daniel? Who? The guy that told the truth all the time. The guy who had a king that had a dream and he couldn't remember what the dream is, and Daniel told him what his dream was and what it meant.
Yeah.
The guy that
They
knows the
done
truth.
forgot Daniel by the time.
You know who's-
the king come.
Exactly,
The
that's
thing
the
is-
problem.
The only one that's holding this truth is the Jewish people. These kings that Daniel's long gone by now. When you get to Xerxes,
Right.
these people and the only ones that's knowing the truth is Jewish people. When Alexander the Great comes into Israel by the Sanhedrin, and Daniel and showed him this right here, this very spot. That didn't have to fight him or nothing. And he was so impressed with the Jewish people that he carried them all the way to India with him.
Because they spoke the truth.
And when you get to Pentecost, all them practicing the Passover, and they come all the way back to Judea to do the Passover, and that's when Peter has to talk in different languages to let them know what's going on with Jesus. I'd be impressed too if someone showed me that this is happening right now.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's, if somebody knew
Some people just hard impressed.
the details, but here's what we do know. Okay? As we look at our own lives, for it is written. Everything that's going around on us, if we can somehow stop focusing on the individual little stories that the news media feeds us and take a look back and look at the big picture, you'll find it in Revelation. You'll find it in Daniel. You're going to find it in other
Ezekiel,
prophets. It is
Malachi.
coming to pass. What we're doing, but the problem is that in order to sell news spot or commercial spots on the news to make money, they have to focus on very eccentric portions
Yes.
so that you don't see the big picture. You only see the little piece. This big, huge story that's blowing up in everybody's face right now. The Supreme Court, somebody stole the draft of the ruling that they did back in February, that they wrote and released it to the press.
How dare they embarrass American politicians?
As
like
soon
that.
as that story got out this morning, guess what they did in Washington, D.C. around the Supreme Court? They started erecting barriers.
Wow.
They knew the violent fighters were coming.
Did it on purpose just to do that.
They started deploying their counter protest to counter riot assets all across Washington, D.C. and in other major cities because they know what's coming tonight.
And then they get Biden on there, and he says, well, if they reverse this, they'll go in there and they'll change. It's going to stop them from changing something else.
Well, do that.
Yeah, well,
If
this ain't the same Supreme Court it was back in the 70s,
No,
back
it's
in
not.
1970.
So now they're just going to overload the Supreme
not made
Court.
properly. But anyway, the problem is that we focus on the ruling without telling what the ruling says, and we focus on, and then they turn and focus the effort on who released it. Who released it? We got to go find the one that released it. Chief Justice. Oh, we got to find the one that released it.
Life
He
sentence.
broke.
They said he was furious.
Life sentence.
They said he was furious.
That's not the story.
Who was furious?
Chief
John
Justice.
Roberts.
He-
But that's
he was-
not the story. The story is that
Breaks
for the
my
first time in 50 years, the right to a person to live has been affirmed.
Well, what's that got to do with Daniel?
Yeah, exactly.
Because Daniel's going to tell us the truth.
Well, Matthew Henry has a good commentary on what we're talking about.
Good.
Someone look up Daniel 9:1, and this says that there shall be 3 kings in Persia besides Darius, in whose reign this prophecy is dated. So that's chapter 9, verse 1.
Okay?
Well, you're getting back to the prayer.
Yeah, just verse 1 though.
It says, of Darius, the son of Ahasuerus, of the Median descent, who was made king over the realm of the Chaldeans.
Mr. Broughton makes these three to be Cyrus, Artaxerxes, Artaxius,
Yeah, and I think you said it right there.
Yeah.
And Xerxes.
called by the Greeks Cambyses, and Ahasuerus that married Esther, called Darius son of Histippus. What names? Don, go
Don't you
ahead.
love these names, David?
Don,
To
go ahead.
these
your heart.
three, the Persians gave these attributes: Cyrus is a master, and Darius a hoarder up. So Herodias, there shall be a fourth far richer than they all, that is Xerxes,
Xerxes.
Xerxes,
I just love these names.
of whose wealth the Greek authors take notice.
Yeah, my,
This is coming out of Matthew Henry's commentary.
Yeah.
my study guide has Darius under Cyrus. Then the next three is Cambyses from 530 to 522 BC. Gumata, 522 BC. He only lasted a year. Darius the First, 522 to 480. And Xerxes, 486 to 465. Who was the richest king of all, due to the extent of the empire's conquest and the severe taxation.
And Matthew Henry says, by his strength, his vast army consisting of 800,000 men at least, and his riches with which he maintained and paid the vast army, he stirred up all against the realm of Greece.
You ever see the movie 300?
Xerxes' expedition against Greece is famous in history, and the shameful defeat that he met with.
He tried to, Xerxes tried to come into Greece, and they took 300 Greeks. There's this narrow pass, and 300 Greeks held that pass. They couldn't get through it,
Against 800,000 men.
and it took a deformed man. He wanted to be part of the army, and they wouldn't let him. So he went to Xerxes and showed him a pass that goes around behind them, and that's how they was able to finally get through.
But
Benedict Arnold.
the bodies of the dead of Xerxes' troops was a wall that they could not climb over. It was amazing, and it is a fairly true story. Yeah, there's a lot of backstory, but the war part of it, he did eventually defeat the Greeks there, but it destroyed everything.
Lost a lot of men
Yeah.
So,
trying to do it,
Just like Daniel said.
like Putin's doing.
like it's happened so many times.
Putin ain't defeated yet,
No, but his men are piling up.
but
Back-
he still ain't defeated yet.
Back to Daniel. A mighty king shall stand up that shall rule the great dominion and do according to his will. When he shall stand up, his kingdom will be broken.
So,
But you didn't finish 4. Actually, you didn't put all 4 on there.
There's the rest of 4.
so what's going to happen is, as soon as he was fully arisen, Alexander the Great's kingdom was broken by his death.
Yep.
Here's a warning to mankind. One ruler, who's the focus of all the rule, when that ruler falls, everything is just destroyed. If you have an idea, if you have a concept of freedom, but a governance with multiple chains down, then it doesn't, even if that king or that president or that leader falls in battle or falls to disease or whatever, the kingdom remains because it's set up in the law. Why do you think the Jewish people still live and rule today in Israel? Because it's not about me. It's not about him. There's a good old saying. You can never achieve greatness until you understand it's not about you.
Yeah.
The greatest
It's true.
people of all time were great because they understood it wasn't about them. And the weakest failure and biggest failures were those who did not understand. They thought it was all about them. Jesus Christ still reigns today because he never thought of it about him. It was all about you, Don. All about you, David. All about you, David. All about Greg.
And it was all about God's will, the Father's will. You go back to Isaiah, and it tells you that God himself said before he ever created anything, he saw the beginning from the ending. And he knew that his counsel would stand, and he would do with his pleasure would be done.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening. It's not about me and you. It's not about these countries. It's not about the nations in the world. It's about God.
Right. It's about God's will. Jesus came here,
And he
So it
said,
was
not my
about
will,
you.
but yours.
not yours, but he came here to give you
Yep.
the opportunity to receive the gift,
I believe that.
not to throw it out to anybody and everybody that takes that and everybody gets it. Jesus didn't die on that cross so that everybody's sins were forgiven no matter what, but it's so that those who believed in him should not perish but have everlasting life. When you do that, you have to lay you down.
Yeah.
Because it's not about you.
Wasn't.
That's what Jesus gave us, the ability to say, God, it's all about you, not about me. That's
It
what
makes
he
a
gave
difference
us.
in
That's
your
the
life when you do
gift.
it. Makes a big difference in your
That
life.
is the
when you
gift
do it.
that Jesus Christ gave all of us. The ability to say, God, I love you. I accept you through your son, Jesus Christ, because it's not about me, it's about you. But in this case, Alexander thought it was all about him. Don't get the big head. Big head will get you killed
Well,
and
you know,
destroy everything that you thought was a great thing.
them Greeks, they had more than one God.
Yeah,
Back up and let's start verse 4. And when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken and shall be divided toward the four winds of heaven, and not to his posterity, nor according to his dominion which he ruled. For his kingdom shall be plucked up, even for others besides those. He's talking about being scattered all over the world.
yeah.
Well,
His
his posterity, no matter who's in line to be ruler behind him, was not going to be ruler. That's what that amounts to.
his chain of
But
command,
they were
his-
snatched up and scattered all over
his
the
desires would never come into effect. His plan would never go.
Now, I don't know if he had any kids, but he sure probably or something.
But it would not to his posterity, nor according to the Grecian dominion that he ruled, for his kingdom was torn out and uprooted to go to others, to the exclusion of those that Alexander wanted to follow him.
And that goes back to what we talked about before when we were saying every time there's a world war, nations fall and other nations are formed.
Yes.
It's been that way.
Because
It's right there.
Yes.
usually conquers, they end up dividing and splitting up the other nations and creating new
Yep.
nations. And
Do you know what? You know what I'm just starting to understand through all this now? World War I, World War II. No. World wars have been happening for centuries.
Yeah.
And all these people are looking for World War III, man. That's it. God's coming. World War. There may be 15 more World Wars before he comes back.
Exactly.
You can't say the next World War's in.
Because they think it's all
It's been
about them,
going
it's all
on
about
since the
God.
damn started.
Well, you realize it's not about you, it's not about the
Right.
world wars, it's not about the United Nations, it's
all
not
about
about the
God.
United States. It's about God and His will.
And what he's doing. Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created. It's all about God, what he's doing. The rest of the Bible and the rest of our life.
Yeah.
About God and what God's
Amen.
doing.
Amen.
Well, you hear people talk about fate and destiny. You gotta look to God for that.
What is everyone's destiny? If God's will was followed, if everybody would listen to the message of Jesus Christ, if everybody would accept God, then your destiny is to live in heaven forever with the Creator.
Yeah.
Without sin.
Unfortunately, we don't follow our destiny.
To live without sin, there'd be no sin. Which is eternal life.
Yes.
That's true.
In good health. Me and you can sit at that dessert bar for 1,000 years.
Oh,
All day.
It won't even get
the
heartburn. I'm
desires of
talking
my
about.
heart.
Y'all got my mind racing now.
Won't even get heartburn.
Worse than yours bathroom.
The
I
best
want y'all to
chocolate
know.
you ever ate in your life.
The desires of my heart is the buffet of buffets.
That's right.
I kind of
Oh
wonder.
my goodness.
I kind of wonder if we'll have intestines, and
I hope so,
I
'cause
wonder
I
if
want to eat.
I wonder if we have a bladder, or kidneys.
There's something else I want, Father God. I want no traffic here anymore. I want to be able to go from here to there and not be stopped by traffic, not sit on I-20 no more.
You can just do this. That's all you need. You'll go wherever you want to go.
Verse 5, and the king of the south shall be strong. Who is this king of the south? Well, I think that'd be important.
And
The
one of
king of the
his
south is Egypt.
princes, and he shall
He shall be
be
strong above him.
him,
That was Ptolemy.
and have dominion. His dominion shall be a great dominion.
So Egypt comes out of this thing. Here you got the kings of Persia getting whooped by Alexander. Alexander falls apart, and look who comes out of it smelling like a rose and powerful. Egypt. Why? Here's another hint in life.
The Persia's still alive today.
Yeah.
Persia is still alive, but here
It's
is,
strong.
and Egypt is not as strong. But here's a hint. Be careful who you align with. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
These kings of Alexander put all their eggs in one basket on one ruler, Alexander. When he fell, it comes out that Egypt comes out strong because they didn't get so aligned. Pretty important. So,
Sure.
so Egypt comes out of this thing smelling like roses, powerful, strong, and rich. Why? Because God's will still won't be done.
Yeah.
And in order for God's will to be done, Egypt had to be strong for a time.
You saw it all.
True. Yeah. And in the end of years they shall join themselves together, for the king's daughter of the south shall come to the king of the north to make an agreement, but she shall not retain the power of the arm, neither shall he stand, nor his arm, but she shall be given up, and they that brought her, and he that brought her, and he that strengthened her in these times.
That is so hard to read and so hard to understand. At the end of some years, the king of the south, which is Egypt, shall make an alliance. And how did they always make alliances? Through marriage.
Marriage.
The daughter of the king of the south shall come to the king of the north to make a marriage agreement,
Mhm.
but she shall not retain the power of her might, neither shall he and his might endure. In other words, they married the prince of the king of the south and the princess of the north, going to get hitched, should make a powerful alliance. Both of their power failed. Therefore,
She shall be given up.
she shall be handed over, and her attendants, and her child, and him who strengthened her during those times, all going to get handed over. Because
And the one that begat her.
that was God's will. And he's telling all this that's going to happen in the future. That's the cool part. And it did.
Yeah.
And God will, his counsel will stand and he will have his good pleasure.
Yep.
According to Isaiah.
Yeah.
Okay, we got here from verse 6 through 15. It's all about this right here. It's dealing with the events described in these verses fit the actual history of the divided Greek Empire. The daughter Bernice of the king, this refers to Bernice, the daughter of Ptolemy Philadelphus of Egypt, and the king of the north. This was Antiochus II Theos of Syria.
So this is a whole lot of Egypt and Syria.
A lot of
joint
history.
kingdom. It fell apart. But out of the branch of her roots, who is her? The daughter of Syrian king.
Yep.
Okay. Shall one stand up in his estate, her brother. That's what all that means. Who shall come against the Syrian army. And, according to what it says, shall enter into the fortress the king of the north, and shall deal against them, and shall prevail. So her brother is going to stand up after this marriage fails, this marriage alliance.
Yes.
Syria is still strong, but they don't follow this rule, so her brother comes up and took Syrian army out. And had vengeance for his sister's plight. That's pretty cool, yeah?
Yeah.
Because in a few years, this actually happens.
Yeah. And shall also carry.
All these countries are still alive today.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's because it's in the cradle of civilization.
But he shall also carry captive into Egypt. Remember now, this is the Syrian king's son, the one that the Egyptian married his sister, and it all went back. So he shall also carry captive into Egypt their gods, their statues, all the little things that they thought was so important, with their little princes, and their little precious vessels, and their little golds, and all their trinkets, folks. They thought these things, these graven images, these godly figures, and if they carried them into Egypt, they took them away. This is a huge part in that time, and even into today, taking the spoils of war.
Mm-hmm.
But what did they take? Besides the gold and the money, they took away their religion. And this is why this parallels what's happening or could happen today.
Yeah.
If we as Christians, as we as Americans, allow the First Amendment right to freedom of speech to be carried away, then the rest of the First Amendment falls, and that is the right to practice religion of your choice, or none at all. This is the beginning of trying to create in the United States and in the world one religion.
Yep.
One sponsored and directed religion. This has been Satan's goal since here. You surely won't die if you eat this apple.
Yeah.
That's been his goal. One religion that's not God, not the creator God. one religion that focuses on him. Jesus was baptized and went into and fasted for 40 days in the wilderness. And then Satan tried his three things. He's only got the three things. Everybody, y'all listen to me out there in this world. Satan's only tempt you with three things. If he had four things, he would have tempted Jesus with the fourth one. He tempts you, first of all, with the things that you need physically to live. Food, shelter. Then he tempts you with the desires.
Long it was that set still at 35 minutes. So
Yeah.
For 60 seconds.
Session 2 here in just a minute.
Uh,
Sam, take a break.
for 60 seconds.